The cold came first, then the silence. Taman opened his compound eyes slowly, all 6 lenses adjusting to the darkness of the cargo hold. His breath formed small clouds in the freezing air. Something was very wrong. The ship's engines had stopped humming. The lights were gone. Only emergency strips glowed dim red along the floor. He tried to move, but his limbs felt heavy. How long had he been unconscious? His mind was foggy, struggling to remember. The asteroid field. Yes, there had been an impact. Alarm screaming. People running. Then someone had grabbed him, pulled him down here, locked the door. Taman pushed himself up on his forearms. Around him in the darkness he could hear others breathing, quiet moans of pain, a child crying somewhere. His vision adjusted and he counted the shapes. Too many bodies crammed into this small space. 40, maybe 50 beings of different species all huddled together for warmth. "You are awake," a voice said nearby. Taman turned to see a Quiller female sitting against the wall. Her blue skin had turned pale from the cold. Her gill slits moved slowly as she breathed the thin air. "I am Mira. I was a researcher." "Before this, before what?" Taman asked, though part of him already knew the answer. "Before they left us to die." The words hung in the frozen air. Taman's mind raced back. 3 weeks ago, the colony ship Eternal Horizon had been carrying 2,000 passengers to the new settlements in Sector 8. It was a massive vessel, 10 years old but well-maintained. The journey should have taken 2 months. Then came the asteroid field. The navigation system had failed to detect it until too late. The ship had taken damage. Bad damage. The reactor core was hit. Life support systems failing. Emergency protocols activated, but there had been enough lifeboats for everyone. Taman remembered seeing them. He had helped load supplies into them during the drills. "They took the lifeboats," Mira said, reading his thoughts. "The council members. The wealthy passengers. The ship officers. They took all of them." "That is against the law," Taman said weakly. Mira laughed, a bitter sound. "The law does not reach this far into space. We are in the frontier zones. Salvage rights, no rescue obligations. They knew this when they locked us here." Taman looked around at the other survivors. He recognized some faces. A Veltran elder named Taijin, who had told wonderful stories during the voyage. A small Quiller child, maybe 5 years old, clutching a torn blanket. 3 human workers from the engine room who had kept to themselves. A family of 4 from a species he did not know, holding each other close. "How long do we have?" he asked. "The computer says life support is at 12%. Maybe 2 days, maybe less." Mira's voice was calm, too calm. She had already accepted her fate. "The temperature will keep dropping. We will freeze before we suffocate." Taman stood on unsteady legs and made his way to the control panel by the door. He was a navigator. He knew ships. His clawed fingers worked the cold metal keys trying to access the ship's systems. Most were offline. But the communications array still had minimal power. He began transmitting a distress signal. Standard format. Ship name, position, situation, number of survivors. He set it to repeat every 10 minutes. Then he slumped against the wall. "No one will come," Mira said softly. "We are too far from any station. Any ship that finds us will claim salvage rights. They have no reason to rescue us." "Maybe," Taman said. "But I have to try." The hours crawled past. The survivors tried to stay hopeful at first. They shared what little food and water had been left in the cargo hold. They took turns sleeping, huddling together for warmth. The elder Taijin told stories to the frightened child, his voice growing weaker. But hope faded as the temperature dropped lower. As the air grew thinner, as the reality of their situation became impossible to deny. On the 2nd day, someone died. An elderly Veltran female simply closed her eyes and stopped breathing. They covered her body with containers, unable to move her anywhere else. The child cried quietly. No one had energy left for loud grief. Taman kept checking the communications panel. His distress signal kept broadcasting into empty space. No response. Not even static. They were alone. "Tell me about your home," Mira said that night. They sat together near the dying power core, trying to absorb its last bits of warmth. Taman described the hive colonies of Veltra, the crystalline towers that caught the light of their 3 suns, the communal nurseries where larvae learned together, the great libraries where all knowledge was shared freely. He had left to see the galaxy, to learn about other species, to bring back stories. Now he would never go home. Mira told him about the ocean cities of Quiller, The schools of children swimming through bioluminescent gardens. The research centers where she had worked on medical treatments for cross-species diseases. She had been traveling to present her findings. 20 years of work. All the data was in her personal computer, which was probably floating in space now with the lifeboats. Someone should have that research. She whispered. It could save lives. I know, Taman said. They fell silent. Around them, others slept or wept quietly or simply stared at nothing, waiting for the end. Taman dozed off, his consciousness fading in and out. In his dreams, he saw the hive colonies, heard his clutchmates calling his name, felt the warmth of home. Then something changed, a vibration, faint but real, running through the hull of the ship. Taman's eyes snapped open. All 6 lenses focused. His species had evolved to see in multiple spectrums, to detect the slightest movements. It was what made them excellent navigators. And now, through the small viewport in the cargo hold door, he saw something. A light. Not a star. Stars did not move like that. This light was growing larger. Coming closer, Mira, he whispered, his voice shaking. Mira, wake up. What is it? A ship. There is a ship coming. The others stirred. Those still conscious moved to the viewport, pressing against each other to see. The light grew brighter, closer. Taman's hearts pounded in his chest. All 3 of them beating faster than they had in days. It could be salvagers, pirates, someone who would claim the ship and space anyone still alive to avoid complications, but it could also be rescue. The light grew into a shape, a vessel medium-sized with markings he did not recognize. It maneuvered carefully alongside the eternal horizon. So close now. Taman could make out details through his sharp vision, and then he saw the symbols painted on the hull. Human letters. Earth Standard. He had learned some Earth languages during his training. He struggled to read the name painted across the ship's side. Dawn's Promise. It is a human ship, he said. Mira pulled herself up to look. Humans here? No one knew much about humans. They were a young species, barely 200 years into space travel. Not wealthy, not powerful. They kept to themselves mostly, running cargo and doing odd jobs other species avoided, but they were coming closer. The ship was definitely approaching, deliberately, carefully. Taman pressed his face against the cold viewport and watched as the human ship moved into position. In the darkness of space, surrounded by death and cold and fading hope, that small vessel looked like the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Someone had heard their signal. Someone had come. Captain Doyen stared at the distress signal on his screen. It had been repeating for 36 hours now. The same message over and over. 47 survivors. Life support failing. No lifeboats. It is in the debris field of Sector 447, his pilot Soman said. She was young. Barely 25, but she could fly through an asteroid storm with her eyes closed. Nasty navigation. It will take us 4 hours off our route. 4 hours of fuel we do not have extra, the first officer added. He was a practical man, always thinking about the numbers. And we are already behind schedule for the colony delivery. Doyen looked at the faces of his bridge crew. He had served with most of them for years. They knew what he was going to say before he said it. We are going in. The first officer sighed but nodded. He had expected this. Soman was already plotting the course, her fingers dancing across the controls. At the communication station, Quan began transmitting a response to the distress signal. This is Dawn's Promise responding to your distress call. We are coming. Hold on. In the medical bay, Jiho looked up from organizing supplies. She was the ship's doctor, trained in treating 17 different species. She had pale skin and tired eyes from too many long shifts. But when Quan told her about the rescue, those eyes lit up. 47 survivors? What species? Mixed, Velthran, Quiller, some others. Unknown conditions. Jiho began pulling out equipment. Medical scanners, thermal blankets, oxygen supplements for different biological types. She had done this before. Too many times before. Down in engineering, Hijin received the news from the captain directly. She wiped grease from her hands and looked at the ship's systems display. The Dawn's Promise was a good ship, but it was old. Pushing it harder meant risking breakdowns. We can do it, she said, but I will need to divert power from non-essential systems. And we will be running hot. Do what you need to do, Doyen said. Hijin smiled. This was why she served on this ship. This was why any of them did. The pay was terrible. The work was hard. But when someone needed help, they went. Every time. No questions. 4 hours later, the Dawn's Promise emerged from the asteroid field. The Eternal Horizon floated ahead, dark and dead in space. It was a massive ship, 10 times their size, but it looked like a corpse. Hull breaches visible, no lights. No power signatures except for a faint reading from the cargo section. Life signs confirmed, Quan reported. 47 beings. Vital signs weak. Temperature inside is minus 15 degrees. Get me visual on their cargo bay, Doyen ordered. The screen showed the viewport of the cargo hold. Through it, they could see faces pressed against the glass. Alien faces, human faces, all staring out at them with desperate hope. Prepare to dock, Doyen said. Captain, the first officer said carefully, their docking ports are damaged, and they are using an older system. We are not compatible. Somin studied the scans. He is right. We cannot dock normally. We would need to cut through their hull, and that could decompress the whole section. Kill everyone inside. The bridge fell silent. They had come all this way. The survivors were right there, but there was no safe way to reach them. Then we make an unsafe way safe, Hyejin said over the comm. She was already moving through the ship, her mind working on the problem. Give me 2 hours. I have an idea. What Hyejin proposed was insane. They would position cargo containers between the two ships, seal them with emergency foam, and create a makeshift pressure tunnel. It would be held together by nothing but sealant and hope. One mistake and everyone would die. This violates about 12 safety regulations, the first officer said. Probably more, Hyejin agreed. But it will work. Doyen looked at his crew. Salman was already running flight calculations to position the ship perfectly. Quan was preparing the cargo bay. Jiho had her medical team ready. Even the first officer was nodding slowly. Do it, Doyen said. They worked for 6 hours straight. Salman held the ship steady while Hyejin and a team in EVA suits assembled the tunnel. They used cargo containers, emergency sealant, portable airlocks, and a lot of prayer. The tunnel looked like something a child would build from scrap, but Hyejin checked every seal twice. It will hold, she said. Probably? The first officer asked. 70% chance, maybe 80. Inside the Eternal Horizon cargo hold, Taman watched the humans work through the viewport. They moved with purpose and speed. He could see them attaching equipment to the hull. Building something, what are they doing? Mira asked weakly. She could barely stand now. The cold had nearly killed her. I think they are making a bridge, Taman said. A way to reach us. That is impossible. The systems are not compatible. I think humans do not care about impossible. Finally, after what felt like forever, they heard sounds at the cargo hold door. Metal scraping. Equipment humming. Then a voice speaking through a speaker in accented but understandable standard language. This is Dawn's Promise. We are cutting through the door now. When it opens, you will see a tunnel. It is safe. Walk through it carefully. We will be waiting on the other side. The door groaned and then opened. Cold air from the tunnel rushed in, but it was warmer than the cargo hold. Emergency lights glowed along the tunnel floor. And at the far end, Taman could see figures in pressure suits waving them forward. Go, Mira said, pushing the Quiller child gently. Go quickly. One by one, the survivors moved through the tunnel. The elderly were helped by the younger. The injured were carried. Taman helped Taejin, the old storyteller who could barely walk. Through the tunnel into the human ship. On the other side, chaos greeted them, but it was organized chaos. Jiho and her medical team moved among the survivors, checking vitals, wrapping them in thermal blankets, providing oxygen. Human crew members guided people to the medical bay, to rest areas, to anywhere they could be warm and safe. Taman stumbled through and immediately felt hands catch him. A human woman with kind eyes wrapped a blanket around his shoulders. Easy, Jiho said. You are safe now. Can you walk? Yes, I think so. Good, follow the lights to medical. We will treat your hypothermia. Taman walked down the corridor of the human ship. It was clean and warm and bright. Other crew members passed him, all of them busy helping the other survivors. Not one looked at him with disgust or fear, even though his species was considered ugly by most standards. In the medical bay, Jiho worked on him quickly, checking his 3 hearts, warming his body temperature slowly, giving him water and a nutrient paste that tasted terrible but felt wonderful. Why did you come? Taman asked. His voice was rough from dehydration. Jiho looked up from her scanner. Because you needed help. But we are strangers. You do not know us, and salvage laws say you could have just claimed our ship. We are not salvagers, Jiho said simply. We are rescue. But why? What do you gain? Jiho smiled. It was a sad smile. My grandmother died on a colony ship when I was young. There was an accident. Other ships could have helped, but they did not. Salvage rights, they said. Not our problem. I was 10 years old when I learned that lesson. She returned to her work, adjusting his thermal blanket. When I grew up, I decided I would never let that happen to someone else if I could help it. None of us on this crew will. We know what it is like to be abandoned. Humans have a long history of it, so when we hear someone calling for help, we answer. Taman felt something break inside him. Not pain, but relief so strong it felt like breaking. He had been holding himself together for days, trying to be strong, trying to stay alive. Now finally safe, the emotions flooded out. Jiho let him cry. She simply continued her work, giving him space to feel everything he had been holding back. Across the medical bay, Mira sat wrapped in blankets while another human medic checked her gills. The Quiller child was already asleep, held in the arms of a human crew member who hummed a soft song. Tejan was receiving treatment for malnutrition. All 47 survivors were aboard. All 47 were alive. Captain Doyen walked through the medical bay, checking on everyone. When he reached Taman, he stopped. "Navigator?" he asked, reading Taman's uniform markings. "Yes, sir." "Good. We will need help plotting a course to Haven Station. It is 3 weeks away. Think you can manage that?" Taman stared at him. "You want my help?" "Of course. You are part of this crew now, at least until we get you somewhere safe." Doyen smiled. "Welcome aboard Dawn's Promise." As the captain walked away, Taman looked around the medical bay. At the humans working tirelessly to help beings they had never met. At his fellow survivors, alive because someone decided they mattered. He thought about the council members who had abandoned them, who had decided some lives were worth more than others, who had left them to die in the cold and dark. And then he thought about these humans, who had risked everything, violated safety regulations, spent resources they probably could not afford, all to save strangers. Tamin did not understand humans yet, but he wanted to learn. The Dawn's Promise was not built to carry 79 beings. It was designed for a crew of 32. Now it held almost 80, and every system strained under the load. Hyejin stood in engineering, watching the power readings climb higher than they should. The life support was working overtime. Water recycling was at maximum capacity. Food stores were being depleted faster than planned. "We will make it," she said to herself. Then louder to her assistant. "We will make it." They had to. 3 weeks to Haven Station. 3 weeks of careful rationing and constant maintenance, but they would get there. On the bridge, Taman worked alongside Soman at the navigation station. His 6 eyes could track multiple data streams at once, making him incredibly efficient. He plotted courses that saved fuel, found shortcuts through safe space, avoided the busiest shipping lanes. "You are good at this," Soman said, watching him work. "Thank you. I trained for many years." "Why were you on that colony ship? You could work on any vessel." Taman hesitated. "I wanted to see the frontier. To go where few Velthrons have gone. My people like to stay close to home usually. I wanted to be different," Soman laughed. "I understand that. I am from a small town on Earth. Everyone expected me to stay, get a normal job. Instead, I learned to fly and joined the Mercy Fleet." "Mercy Fleet?" "That is what we call ourselves. Ships like Dawn's Promise. We patrol the frontier zones looking for distress calls. It is not official. Earth government funds us a little, but mostly we survive on cargo contracts and donations." Taman absorbed this information. "So you do this all the time? Rescue people?" "When we can. Not every call reaches us in time. Not every rescue works." Her voice grew quiet. "But we try." In the converted storage bay that now served as refugee quarters, Mira sat with her datapad. She had managed to salvage her research files before the Eternal Horizon was abandoned. 20 years of work, medical treatments that could help multiple species. Hyejin found her there, running diagnostics on the cooling system nearby. "What are you working on?" the engineer asked. "Medical research, treatment for Kelvin syndrome. It affects nerve tissue across multiple species." Hyejin's eyes widened. "I had a cousin who died from that. 3 years ago. There was no treatment." "There might be now," Mira said softly. "I was traveling to present my findings to the medical council. But I suppose that will not happen now. Why not? I have no credentials anymore. No laboratory. No backing. I am just a refugee. The agent sat down next to her. Send me your data. I have contacts in the human medical research community. They do not care about credentials. They care about results. You would do that. Of course. Knowledge should be shared, especially knowledge that saves lives. Mira felt tears forming. On my world, research is bought and sold. Patents, ownership. I would have made a fortune if I had presented this correctly. And now? Now I just wanted to help people. Anyone who needs it. Mira looked at Hyejin. You humans are teaching me strange things. Good, Hyejin said with a smile. But not everything was peaceful. On the 5th day, tensions rose. The food situation was getting serious. Rations had been cut twice already. Everyone was hungry. And some of the survivors did not understand why they had to share equally with the human crew. A group of 5 Velthrons, led by a male named Sirkin, gathered in the refugee quarters. They whispered among themselves. In their culture, hierarchy was everything. The strong ate first. The weak got what was left. This human system of equal distribution was confusing and frustrating. We should take what we need, Sirkin said quietly. There is food in the cargo hold. We are survivors. We deserve it. That night, they tried to break into the cargo hold. They were not violent, just desperate and following their instincts. But alarm sounded. Within minutes, Junho, the security chief, arrived with 2 crew members. Junho was a big human, tall and broad, with scars on his face from some past incident. He looked intimidating. The Velthrons prepared for violence. In their world, this would end in a fight. Instead, Junho held up his hands. Stop. Just stop. We are hungry, Sirkin said defensively. I know. We all are. Junho's voice was calm. But stealing food will not help. You have supplies. We have nothing. Those supplies are for everyone, including you. We share them equally. That is not how survival works, Sirkin argued. The strong should eat first. Before Junho could respond, a small voice spoke up. The humans taught me different. Everyone turned. The Quiller child, Yunji, stood there in her oversized thermal blanket. She was holding her dinner ration, a small portion of nutrient paste. When I was scared on the dead ship, I wanted to hide food for myself, she said in broken but clear standard. But Jiho told me something. She said everyone eats or nobody eats. She said we are stronger together. Yunji walked up to Sirkin and held out her food. You can have mine if you are very hungry. I do not mind. The cargo bay fell silent. Sirkin looked at the child, at her offering, at the humans watching him calmly. He felt shame, a sensation he was not familiar with. No, he said quietly. No, small one. You keep it. Junho stepped forward. Come with me. All of you. Let me show you something. He led them to the mess hall where the human crew was eating their own rations, the same portions as the refugees. Captain Doyun sat with his officers, eating nutrient paste that probably tasted as bad as what everyone else got. You see, Hunyo said, we are all on the same ration. Captain and crew, humans and non-humans. This is not about hierarchy. This is about surviving together. But you are the crew, Sirkin said, confused. You should eat first. You need strength to run the ship. We need you to have strength too, Junho replied. Because when we reach Haven Station, you will need to rebuild your lives. If we feed ourselves and let you starve, what have we really saved? It was a concept foreign to Sirkan's understanding. But looking at these humans, seeing how they lived their beliefs, something shifted in his mind. I am sorry, he said. Apology accepted. Now come eat with us. And tomorrow, if you want to help, Hyejin needs assistance in engineering. She says your species is good with mechanical systems. We are, Sirkin said, surprised to be asked. Then you can work. Earn your keep. Be part of this crew until we get you to safety. That became the pattern. The refugees who were healthy enough began helping around the ship. Mira worked in medical, learning from Jiho. Taijin told stories to the crew during mealtimes, keeping morale up. Even Yunji had a job helping to sort recycling materials. Taemin spent most of his time on the bridge or in engineering. He was fascinated by how the humans maintained their ship. It was older technology, often repaired with improvised parts, but it worked. More than worked. It kept running through sheer determination and clever engineering. One day, crisis struck. A coolant leak in the reactor core. Poisonous gas began filling the engineering section. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Yijin immediately ordered evacuation of engineering. "Everyone out, now!" But Taman saw the problem. The leak was in a section that could not be sealed remotely. Someone had to go in there, manually close the valve, and seal it with emergency compound. It would take at least 10 minutes in a toxic environment. "I can do it," Yejin said, reaching for a pressure suit. "No," Do-Yoon said firmly. "That is suicide. The gas concentration is too high. Then what do you suggest? We let the leak continue until it poisons the whole ship?" Mira stepped forward. "I can help. Quillers can hold our breath for 15 minutes, and we have some natural resistance to this type of compound." "I will go too," Taman said. "I have multiple redundant lungs. I can manage the exposure." Hyejin looked at them. "You do not have to do this." "Yes, we do," Mira said simply. "You risked yourselves for us. Now we do the same." The three of them suited up. They entered engineering together, working quickly through the toxic haze. Hyejin guided them to the leak. Taman used his smaller arms to reach into tight spaces. Mira held her breath and worked the sealing compound with her precise fingers. 10 minutes, 12, 14. Finally, the valve was closed. The seal was complete. They stumbled out of engineering, coughing and gasping. Jiho and her team immediately began treatment, but they would be fine. The ship would be fine. That night, as Taman recovered in medical, Taijun came to visit. The old Velthron sat beside his bed. "I have studied many species in my long life," Taijun said quietly. "I have seen civilizations rise and fall. I have watched empires conquer and collapse. But I have never seen anything like humans." "What do you mean?" Taman asked. "They do not save people despite the cost. They save people because of who they are. It is not logic. It is not profit. It is just what they believe is right." "Is that so strange? In this galaxy?" "Yes, most species follow self-interest. Survival of the fittest. Protect your own and let others fend for themselves." Taijin looked at Taman with his old wise eyes. "But humans seem to think everyone is their own. Every being in need is someone they should help." "That seems exhausting," Taman said. "I imagine it is. But look what it creates." Taijin gestured around the medical bay where human and non-human worked side by side. Community, trust. Something worth building. As Taman drifted to sleep, he thought about his homeworld. About the hierarchies and the competition. About survival of the strongest. He had always accepted it as natural. But maybe, he thought, maybe there was another way. A human way, a better way. 2 years had passed since the rescue of the Eternal Horizon survivors. Taman stood at the navigation console of Dawn's Promise, plotting a course through a dangerous asteroid field. His 6 eyes tracked multiple displays simultaneously, finding the safe path that others would miss. "Beautiful work," Soman said beside him. She was teaching him advanced piloting now. He had saved 17 ships in 2 years, 17 groups of people who would have died if not for the Mercy Fleet. The story of the Eternal Horizon had not faded. If anything, it had grown. Taman's testimony had been translated into 43 languages. His image, a young Veltron standing before the Galactic Council demanding justice, had become a symbol. Things were changing. Slowly but changing. The Horizon Protocol was now law in 15 systems. It mandated that ships could not abandon passengers during emergencies. It required minimum rescue equipment. It established penalties for those who violated these rules. Not every system enforced it. Not every species accepted it. But it existed. More importantly, other species were starting their own mercy fleets. On the planet Quillar, Mira had used her fame to advocate for a medical rescue ship. The Quillar government, pressured by public opinion, agreed. The ship was named Eternal Hope, carrying medical teams and supplies to frontier zones. Mira served as its chief medical officer. In the Veltron hive colonies, a young female named Sora had heard Taman's story. She convinced her clutch to fund a supply vessel dedicated to rescue operations. It was called Horizon's Light. The Veltrons, known for their individualistic culture, were learning to help strangers, and the movement spread. A Quiller here, a Velthron there, dozens of small ships crewed by beings who decided that maybe humans had the right idea. Maybe compassion was not weakness. Maybe helping others made you stronger, not weaker. Captain Doyen had been promoted to admiral, overseeing the entire Mercy Fleet. He was older now, grayer, moving a bit slower. But his eyes still held that determination. "We are getting more ships every month," he told Taman during a meeting. Not enough. Never enough. But more than we had. Is it making a difference? Taman asked. Look at the data. Rescue operations are up 40%. Survival rates in frontier space have improved. Fewer ships are abandoned. Doyen smiled. We are not changing the galaxy overnight, but we are changing it. Ye Jin, now chief engineer for the entire fleet, worked with a Quiller engineer named Era. Together they had developed standardized rescue equipment that worked across different species technologies. What had been desperate improvisation during that first rescue was now proper engineering. The equipment was being adopted by commercial ships, not because it was required, but because crews were demanding it. They had seen the stories. They knew what could happen. They wanted to be prepared. In the Galactic Council, change was slower. A human diplomat named Kyung-soo pushed for reforms, mandatory rescue protocols, shared emergency resources, penalties for abandonment. The Council resisted. Change threatened their power structures, but humans were persistent. And they were not alone anymore. Other species were starting to question the old ways. The Council members who had tried to protect the Eternal Horizons leadership were now facing political pressure in their home systems. 3 of the Council members from that doomed ship had been convicted. Light sentences, community service mostly, but they had been convicted. That was unprecedented. Powerful people facing consequences for how they treated the powerless. It was not enough. Yuna and her team were already filing appeals, pushing for stronger sentences. But it was something. One day, Dawn's Promise received a distress call. Taman immediately recognized the signature. A human colony ship, the New Beginning, was under attack by pirates. 3 hostile vessels surrounding it. The colonists were outgunned and outmatched. We need military support, the first officer said, reading the tactical data. We cannot fight 3 pirate ships. How long until military arrives? Doyen asked. 4 hours minimum. The colonists do not have 4 hours. Doyen looked at his crew. The same crew who had risked everything 2 years ago. We are going in. Sir, we will be destroyed. Maybe, but we do not leave people to die. Dawn's Promise jumped to the coordinates. As they emerged from FTL, Taman immediately saw the situation. 3 pirate vessels had the colony ship surrounded. They were demanding cargo and threatening to start spacing passengers if their demands were not met. This is Dawn's Promise, Doyen broadcast. Stand down immediately. The pirates laughed on the open channel. 1 mercy ship? You are outgunned. Leave now or be destroyed with them. We do not leave, the pirates opened fire. Dawn's Promise had some defensive weapons, but they were designed for deterrence, not combat. The shields took hits, holding but weakening. Then something appeared on the sensors. More ships dropping out of FTL. Horizon's Light emerged first, its Veltran crew broadcasting support. Then Eternal Hope, the Quiller medical ship armed with defensive drones. Then 3 more vessels, smaller ships crewed by mixed species, all part of the growing Mercy fleet. This is Captain Minho of Horizon's Light, a voice said. Minho was human, but his crew was mostly Veltran. He was training non-human crews in rescue operations. We received your distress call. We are here to help. The pirates suddenly faced 6 ships. Not military vessels, but 6 crews willing to risk themselves for strangers. The odds had changed. This is insane. The pirate leader broadcast. You are rescue ships. You are not fighters. True, Doyen replied calmly. But there are 6 of us and 3 of you. And we are not leaving. The pirates ran. They were criminals, not fanatics. They had no interest in a fight they might lose. The colony ship was safe. Its crew and passengers were shaken but alive. Taman coordinated the aftermath, his navigation skills directing each ship to where they were needed. Medical teams from Eternal Hope treated injuries. Supply ships provided resources. Everything worked smoothly because they had practiced this. Because humans had taught them how. Later on the bridge of Dawn's Promise, Taman received a message from Ambassador Veltor. The old reptilian was retired now, living quietly on his homeworld. I was wrong. The message said simply, you were right. The galaxy is better for what you do. Taman felt a deep satisfaction. Not vindication exactly. Just the quiet knowledge that change was happening. That evening, Yunji contacted him. She was 12 now, growing fast. She split her time between human school on Haven Station and Quiller cultural programs. She had friends of multiple species. She was learning 3 languages, did you hear? She asked excitedly. My school is starting a program. Students volunteer on mercy ships during summer. I am going to apply when I am old enough. That is wonderful, Taman said. It is because of you. Because you showed people what was possible. After the call ended, Taman sat in his quarters thinking about that. He had not set out to change anything. He had just been trying to survive, then trying to get justice, then trying to help others the way he had been helped. But somehow that had become something bigger. A week later, Dawn's Promise responded to another distress call. A ship in trouble, life support failing, crew and passengers in danger. Taman plotted the course. Summon flew them there. Hijin prepared the rescue equipment. Jiho got medical ready. They did not discuss whether to respond. There was no debate about cost or risk or regulations. Someone needed help. That was enough. As they approached the distressed vessel, a young cadet named Hana asked Taman a question. She was human, barely 18, training to be a navigator. "Sir, can I ask you something?" "Of course. What does it mean to be human?" "I mean really mean?" Taman thought about it. He remembered the cold and dark of the eternal horizon. The moment he saw lights approaching, the humans who had built an impossible tunnel to reach him, the crew who shared their food equally, the captain who faced the council without fear. He thought about Hyejin teaching other species to build rescue equipment, about Doyen training non-human crews, about Mira sharing her research freely, about little Yunji offering her food to strangers. Being human is not about species, he said finally. It is about choosing to care when the universe says you should not. It is about showing up when everyone else leaves. It is about believing that every life has value, even when that belief costs you everything. "But you are not human," Hana said. "No, but I learned from humans, and now I teach others." He gestured to the view screen where the distressed ship waited. "That is what humans gave us. Not just rescue. The idea that we can be better than we were." They reached the ship. The rescue was difficult but successful. 23 being saved. 23 lives that continued because someone decided they mattered. As Dawn's Promise jumped back to normal space, heading toward their next destination, Taman looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, other mercy ships were doing the same thing. Humans, Velthrons, Quillers, dozens of species learning to help each other. The galaxy was vast, ancient, full of powers and empires and species that had existed for millennia. Change came slowly to such a place. The powerful resisted. The old ways persisted. But something was different now. A new way of thinking spreading slowly through the frontier zones. The idea that strength was not just about power or profit. That civilization should be measured by how it treated its most vulnerable. Haven Station appeared on the view screen like a small metal city floating in space. It was a neutral port, operated by no single government, where all species could trade and dock safely. Thousands of ships passed through it every day. The Dawn's Promise received docking clearance and slowly maneuvered into position. On the bridge, Taman felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief that they had made it safely, sadness that this journey was ending, uncertainty about what came next. "Docking complete," Soman announced. Captain Doyen stood. "All refugees are to proceed to immigration processing. Station medical teams will provide follow-up care. The council has arranged temporary housing and travel vouchers to your destinations." It should have been good news, but something in Doyen's voice made Taman uneasy. As they disembarked, station personnel greeted them with efficient politeness. Medical scans, documentation checks, assigned quarters in the refugee section. Everything was processed quickly and quietly. Too quickly. Too quietly. Mira noticed it too. "They want us to disappear," she said to Taman as they walked through the station corridors. "Process us. Ship us off to different worlds. Make this whole incident go away." Why would they do that? Because the eternal horizon was in council-regulated space. They are responsible. This makes them look bad. That evening, Taman received a message requesting his presence at a meeting. Official business, it said. He arrived at the indicated conference room to find several other survivors there, including Mira and Taijun. At the head of the table sat a reptilian being in expensive diplomatic robes. "I am Ambassador Veltor of the Galactic Council," the being said smoothly. "I wanted to personally ensure you are all being well cared for." "We are grateful for the Council's assistance," Taijun said carefully. "Excellent. Now we have arranged compensation for your ordeal, standard rates for lost property and emotional distress. We will also provide free transport to your intended destinations. What about the people who abandoned us? Mira asked suddenly. The room went quiet. Veltor's expression did not change, but Taman caught a flicker of something in his eyes. Annoyance, maybe, or fear. That is a complicated matter, the ambassador said slowly. It is actually very simple, Mira continued. They locked us in cargo holds to die. That is attempted murder. Multiple counts. The ship's council made difficult decisions during an emergency situation. Veltor replied. They prioritized those they deemed most essential for the survival of the colony mission. They prioritized themselves and their wealthy friends, Taman said, finding his voice. I was the ship's navigator. Essential personnel. But I am not rich, so I was locked below. I understand your anger, but prosecution would be difficult. Many of the individuals involved are prominent citizens. The legal process could take years, decades, so they face no consequences. Mira's voice was sharp. I did not say that. But perhaps it is better to accept compensation and move forward with your lives. Taman stood up. His 3 hearts were pounding. No, excuse me, no. We will not accept money to stay quiet. We want a formal inquiry. We want charges brought. We want the galaxy to know what happened to us. Veltor's calm cracked slightly. Young being, you do not understand the political complexities involved. I understand that those people decided our lives were worthless, and you want us to agree with them. That is not what I said. It is exactly what you said, Taejun spoke up, his old voice carrying weight. You offer us money to make us go away. But some things cannot be bought. The meeting ended badly. Veltor made thinly veiled warnings about causing trouble, about ungrateful refugees, about knowing one's place in galactic society. Taman left feeling angry and helpless. The powerful would protect each other. Nothing would change, but he had forgotten about humans. That night, a human woman found him in the refugee quarters. She was small, fierce-looking, with sharp eyes and a determined expression. I am Yuna, she said. Galactic Civil Rights Commission. Human branch. I heard about your meeting with Veltor. How did you hear about that? I have sources. Look, I know what the council is trying to do. Sweep this under the rug. Pay you off. Protect their important people. And you can stop them? Yuna smiled. It was not a nice smile. I can try, but I need you to go public. Tell your story. Make noise. Humans are good at that. The ambassador said it would take decades to prosecute. Maybe, maybe not. Humans have only been in the Galactic Council for 50 years. We are still new, still annoying. We have not learned to accept how things are done. She pulled out a data pad. This is a legal filing. Formal charges against every member of the Eternal Horizons Council. Attempted murder. Negligent homicide for those who died. Violation of interstellar safety protocols. The Council will never allow it. They might not have a choice. See, humans have this thing called public opinion, and we are very good at making other species care about things they want to ignore. Over the next week, the story broke across multiple networks. A human journalist named Daehyun had been following the Mercy Fleet for years, documenting their rescues. He interviewed Taman, Mira, every survivor who would talk. He got footage of the Dawn's Promises improvised rescue tunnel. He showed the cargo hold where they had nearly died. The story spread. First through human networks, then to other species. Images of little Yunji, who had almost frozen to death. Testimony from Taejun about watching people die. Mira's description of being locked away while wealthy passengers took the lifeboats. Public outrage grew. Not just among humans, though they were the loudest. Other species began asking questions. Why was this allowed? What kind of civilization abandons its vulnerable? The Galactic Council tried to contain it. But humans, Yuna explained to Taman, were stubborn. They did not accept the way things were. They kept pushing. The hearing was scheduled. Formal inquiry into the abandonment. Captain Doyen was called to testify as the rescuing officer. He appeared before the council in his dress uniform, standing straight despite his age. Describe what you found, Captain, the council chair requested. Doyen did. In detail, the freezing temperatures, the dying life support, the children crying. The bodies already cold. He spoke for 2 hours, painting a picture so vivid that species across the galaxy watched in horror. Did the crew of Dawn's Promise endanger themselves to effect this rescue? A council member asked. Yes. Why? because it was the right thing to do. But you had no obligation. Salvage rights were clear. You could have claimed the ship and its cargo without risking your crew. Doyen looked directly at the council. We are human. We do not calculate the worth of lives based on profit. We help because people need help. It is that simple. That is illogical, another council member said. Maybe, but it is who we are. Then Mira testified. She brought her medical research, showed that the Eternal Horizon had sufficient supplies to keep everyone alive until rescue. The abandonment was not necessary. It was a choice made by people who valued their own comfort over others' lives. This research, one council member noted, is worth considerable money. You could sell it. I am giving it freely to any medical institution that wants it, Mira said. The humans taught me something. Knowledge that saves lives should not be hoarded. The council member blinked, confused. That is not how intellectual property works. It is how compassion works. The hearing lasted 3 days. In the end, the council agreed to prosecute. It was unprecedented. The political pressure was too great. Humans and their allies had made too much noise, but there was a cost. After the hearing, Veltor approached Doyen privately. You have made enemies today, Captain. I made enemies the moment I chose to help people instead of profit from their suffering. You humans think you can save everyone. You will burn out trying. Maybe, Doyen said, but we will burn bright. As the survivors prepared to leave Haven Station for their new destinations, Taman requested a private meeting with Doyen. I want to join your crew, he said. You are a skilled navigator. You could work on better ships. Make more money. I do not want a better ship. I want to help people like you helped me. Doyen studied him for a long moment, then smiled. Welcome to the Mercy Fleet. Mira made a similar decision. She would work with human medical teams, sharing her research, learning their techniques. Yunji was adopted by a human family on Haven Station, who promised to keep her connected to her Quiller heritage. The survivors scattered to their new lives, but they carried something with them. A seed of an idea, that maybe the galaxy did not have to be the way it was, that maybe compassion was not weakness, that maybe humans had the right idea after all. As Dawn's promise prepared to depart, heading back to the frontier zones, Taman stood on the bridge at his new station. Through the viewport, he could see Haven Station receding. Somewhere on that station, the powerful people who had tried to silence them were now facing justice. It was not perfect. The legal process would take years. Some might escape consequences, but it was a start. And sometimes Taman was learning a start was enough.